Sarkis, thanks so much for joining me on Meld, man. It's been a while, and I've been really excited to do this with you ever since I've seen some of your projects on Webflow. So I'm super excited we've been able to kind of sit down and chat here on the podcast.
Likewise. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. So I'm thinking, like, just to kind of start this off, for some people who don't really know you, I think I want to preface this with like your story. I want you to kind of like explain what it is that you do, because you do a lot.
Yeah.
And I just want you to maybe talk about maybe some of your stories so people kind of understand, you know, where you're coming from and what you actually do before we get into this whole conversation.
Sure. So I'm a product designer and serial entrepreneur. And I've been designing since I was 5, since my dad spoiled me with Photoshop. And I've been kind of obsessed with trying to find a way to bring my ideas to life in the easiest and fastest possible way. And early on, I kind of realized I could design anything I wanted, but I couldn't bring it to life without developers. So that's how I, very early on, even before no code was kind of a thing, I started dabbling in with a lot of different tools, trying to figure out how I could independently develop software. So I tried a lot of prototyping tools and so on and so forth until I eventually found Webflow. And then with Webflow, even in the early days of Webflow, it kind of just unlocked all of my abilities and my skills and talents, and not just Webflow, but other amazing no-code tools as well. And I realized early on, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint, no-code tools are very, very powerful for developing prototypes and MVPs. And so I started building them for myself. I raised my first investment, over $1 million using my own prototype. And that kind of just proved to me that, okay, there's this whole other world out there that many people haven't tapped into yet. They're still using pitch decks and so on and so forth, when in reality, you can not only save hundreds of thousands of dollars validating your ideas, but you can also go and press your community, speak with investors and so on, using your own product that you built with your own hands before you get hundreds of engineers involved, and that was very powerful. And at that point, I started also helping other companies validate their ideas using my own experience that I went through. So for the last 5-10 years, that's been kind of my forte. And in the no-code space, I realized, okay, what if I could share that skill with the community and they could also be a part of that? And early on, I tried over the years to kind of dabble, get into Twitter and so on, but I felt like the community wasn't really ready yet. They were still treating no-code tools like just website builders and so on. And to me, tools like Webflow are more like Photoshop for the web, as opposed to, just like a Squarespace or Wix or a WordPress, which I feel are not very fair comparisons. So I kind of saw Webflow as this tool that just, I could design anything I liked. And a lot of people didn't really see that. So I started developing some really complicated projects very quickly. So earlier this year, I just realized, okay, let me just go public with this. Unfortunately, the pro and con of kind of doing the type of work I do is that most of it is all under NDAs. So you can't really share any of it. It's like when you work with these companies, you're developing their most valuable asset, which is photorealistic. You're able to really demonstrate, validate that idea, that product. So you're never really able to share that publicly with the community. So I felt like there was this secret ability, this secret superpower that I had access to that I couldn't really share with anybody. So I realized, okay, how about I take really popular services that the community knows about and release that as clonables? So in January, I released a PlayStation 4, a complete rebuild prototype for the community. And that's how everybody found out about me. And then, each month I was like, okay, let's just call this the year of no code. Especially then when COVID hit, it was just a great time to just, stay at home and focus, commit to the community like that. And that was awesome. And then just recently, I launched the largest Webflow project ever made, which is a complete rebuild of Civilization 6. So my life is kind of like broken into 2 parts. I have this entrepreneurial side, which is as far away from no code as you can possibly get. I built a few companies of my own over the past few years. I've been fortunate to work with some really talented people. And then the other side is my product design side. And that's, that's defined by no-code tools like Webflow and so on, and more than that. So I'm trying to now kind of bridge that together and bring these worlds together and use my skills from both sides to kind of empower the community as much as possible and show them all the possibilities. I feel like no-code is still very, very young. It's really the early days. It's almost like the computer industry in the 60s or 70s. It's very early. People still didn't know what it was. They didn't know what a personal computer was, what the possibilities were. And with no-code, even though, where, it's 2020, we've come really far with these tools compared to, 2010 or 2005 and so on and so forth. I still feel like people are still really scratching the surface of what's possible. So I think it's very important that we have more ambassadors in the community that can really push the boundaries and say, this is what we want you to build with these tools. And also invite other communities and other industries to be part of no code. So for example, with Civilization 6, I was able to successfully get Firaxis really impressed, the creators of the game Civilization 6. So now they want to actually collaborate with me and have a collaboration with Webflow and see how we can use these tools to empower the gaming community. So I think that, my role in no code really this year has been solidified as, like an ambassador for no code. My passion is kind of like just taking each one of these tools, whether it's Webflow or Bubble or Clutch or Builder and so on, whatever is available out there, and just push them to the bleeding edge and just showcase projects people have never seen before with these tools. And that's what I've been doing in my next build, kind of like a cliffhanger before we continue, is going to be a complete rebuild of the macOS, which is coming out in early January. So that's going to be my final kind of mic drop for the Webflow community. And then I want to be able to dive into other really amazing tools like Bubble and so on, and maybe, hopefully empower those communities too.
Man, that is awesome. First of all, I love the story of how you kind of got into it. And, I think a lot of designers, especially like myself, we followed a similar path. So I really resonate with that story. It's like you start off with basically just designing the front end of it. Like, here's what it should look like. Just in Photoshop, you're just designing screens. And when I was starting apps, when I was in university, that's all I had. I can only really use Sketch or something like that to build the front end of it.
Exactly.
And then these other tools like InVision came out. There's a few other ones around that same time. I think Origami and a few other ones, right? Like Prototyper, a few of these little tools, but it didn't feel like photoreal. It just felt like you said, like a pitch deck. Like you're still just clicking through your screens, and it's still false. But with Webflow, the thing that I think people don't really understand too is if you wanted to, you can export the code and you have full on perfectly designed HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Exactly. It's not just screens. It's not like you're designing photo elements. It's like you're creating actual div blocks. You're creating actual code visually. And that's amazing to me. And clearly what you've done this year has just pushed that to the edge. Like you said, people think of Webflow as a website builder. At the very far end, people like myself, I've even made SaaS products with it, where I've using MemberStack and Outseta, some of these tools. I'll link in the description for people who are what the hell is this? To allow people to log in and have some of this functionality. But then you went to a whole other level. You're I'm going to rebuild the PS4 UI. Who would think to even do that in a website builder? Like you wouldn't really think to use that tool in that way. So I love how your passion for gaming also kind of went in there, because then you started doing Civ 6. That was insane, man. The fact that you could do Civilization and Webflow clearly unlocks something. And the fact that you're now speaking to the creators and they're hey, we can now use this as prototyping tools. That is just insane to me, because it's not how people intended to use it. And it's exactly what you said, pushing things to the bleeding edge. And I love that. And maybe before we get deeper into product design, because I have some specific questions for you on product design and the Webflow side and some of the other no-code stuff, I do want to preface all this with your entrepreneurial side, because I think it's something a lot of people don't know about you, even people who've gotten to know you over Twitter and sort of in the no-code community. I'd love for you to kind of chat about what it is that you're doing on the entrepreneurial side. I know there's a few projects, but I know there's one really big one that we spoke about. So I'd love for you to kind of explain that and how you've connected your product design expertise into that project.
Yeah, sure. I've always been creating. For me, it's just a way to exercise my spirit. I'm always trying to find a problem I can solve. That's really what I'm most passionate about. A lot of people are just obsessed with tech, just for the sake of tech. It's cool, it's awesome. Yeah, it is cool and awesome. But if it doesn't solve a particular problem for me, it's no interest to me. So for me, from a very young age, now I've been traveling around the world. I've had the good fortune of living in many countries. My family's traveling a lot, and I always, being exposed to so many cultures. I come from an artistic background with my family. I always felt like I want to be as versatile as I possibly can. And as a result, trying to always discover more problems and create solutions for those problems, I just ended up creating a lot of different things. On Twitter, I just didn't want to I didn't want to confuse the community where it's like, okay, who is he? Like, what does he do? Is he a maker? Is he a restaurateur? Is he a biologist? What is he? So for me, I just on Twitter, I just kept it as just the no code community. I wanted that to be, I wasn't really even active that much on Twitter until January. I was never really much of a Twitter user, unfortunately, until recently, and I feel like that's a big missed opportunity. Many people look over Twitter. They wrongly compare it to Facebook or some social network, but really, I really feel like it's the front page of the internet. It's the front page of the community of the world. There's just so much you can do for free. It's insane that Twitter is free. That you can just the amount of value.
Huge. Man,
it's absolutely
my last
huge.
10 podcast guests, yourself included, we got connected through Twitter. It's the best.
Straight to it. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's it is insane that that's a free solution that people don't really appreciate. I think if they made it paid, many people would start wondering like what Twitter is even more, and they would start appreciating a little more than they do right now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, coming back to it, basically, when I grew up in India for about 10 years, I grew up in the States, Scandinavia, and so on and so forth. I'm originally from Armenia. And in India, around 15, 16, when I returned back to Armenia, I just decided I already knew what I wanted to be. I mean, I was obsessed with product design. So I just went straight into my career. After graduating high school, I didn't go to university or anything. I just straight up went into my career. And, 16, 17, I was already lead designer at a media agency. I already knew kind of what I wanted. And that was kind of the last time I worked for anybody. At that point, I started creating my own companies, my own ideas, my own projects. Some of them failed, some of them were super successful, and just in my early 20s, I just kind of immediately felt like, I want to get exposed more to multiple industries. I dabbled in gaming industry as well, which is why I kind of have, because it was very creative. I just absolutely love the freedom that gaming gives you, where it's like, you could put anything you want on that screen. It's just insane. And it is the most engaging medium of all the mediums. Movies you watch, music you listen, gaming, you're in it, you're doing it. Especially there you go.
Have you delved in? Did you get an Oculus?
Not yet, man.
I hope you're getting one of these bad boys. For people listening, I'm holding an Oculus Quest 2.
Oof, yeah, that's a big leap. I gotta go check that out.
100%.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So I dabbled in gaming. I worked with some gaming companies early on as well. I'm also a writer as well as a musician. So, my family just made sure I was as versatile as possible. It was never just like, this is the path you're going to be on. It was always like, just keep evolving, let the path find you instead. So that I really, shout out to my parents. I really love the fact that they just, gave me, my brother and my younger brother and sister, just the complete freedom to do what we love and just, make mistakes and keep trying and going forward, So I really owe it to my parents for that. We never lived in a box ever. It was, our family's always been like making sure, especially with our lifestyle, just make sure that you never end up in a dead end. You're never stuck in a corner. You're always, able to go where you need to go. And don't always try to just have that perfect answer. Like, it's okay to not know the answer. Just wait. Just let the universe speak to you. Let the river take you where you're supposed to go. And that's how I ended up in Thailand. So now I'm in, last 4 or 5 years I've been in Thailand. One of my businesses is called Rapmaster. So I am a restaurateur. I'm proud to be working out here. It's a franchise that's been expanding very quickly. Basically, the idea is that, my obsession is uniting the world. You can see what I'm doing with like bringing industries together, bringing makers together. Like I really believe unification can solve pretty much all the problems we have in the world today. If we just worked as communities as opposed to just depending on governments or just depending on others to solve our problems for us, that has never helped. If you look at the civil rights movement, you look at anything that really, a big problem that was solved, it was never just some government or some president or some emperor that did it. It was always the people deciding, hey, listen, we got to come together. We got to fix this. This is not good enough, I want to be, a unifying force in the world, in any capacity, whether that's just, having 2,000 followers on Twitter or that's having 200 million followers, around the world. I don't care what it means, but that's been my passion. So with Rapmaster, there was an opportunity I saw in 2016 where I realized, okay, like I had friends and family who were suffering due to fast food and, just unhealthy eating and so forth. So I was like, how can I apply my knowledge to my expertise as a product designer to actually maybe transforming the fast food industry itself? So what we did was I've said, okay, there was actually a little truck that opened up just near my hotel. This is like a month after I arrived in Thailand, literally.
Wow.
So I just start everywhere I go. I'm like, my long-term dream is to have one unique company in every country.
That's
Like
so
this
cool.
was created in Thailand. This was created in Armenia. It was like just creating all the time. That's really my goal in life, is to be rich enough and successful enough to never have to think about money.
Just think about the creation,
just
the
create,
artistic creation.
That's it. Just be able to create all the time. Honestly, like once you reach a certain amount of success, you've seen a certain amount of money. Money just doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore, and you start to realize this really does not make me fucking happy. This doesn't make me, And for me, I'm so that's one thing I'm most proud of in my life, in my career, is that even after all the ups and downs, I never really it never really changed my values. It never changed what I care about. And that's not always something you can control. Life, you are a product of your environment. If you grow up in a very materialistic environment, it will change who you are. It will make you who you are. And for me, it's like I always wanted to change my environment and only take the positive from that environment. And I feel like Thailand has such a humble and just such a culturally fueled culture. And a society that it is just it's so easygoing, and it's such a it's a Buddhist country as well. It's just such a humble culture. It's as far from materialism as you can possibly get, and that's what I fell in love with when I came to Chiang Mai, which is the cultural heart of Thailand. I absolutely love it out here.
That's awesome. But you recently did a quest, didn't you? You visited a bunch of different temples.
I turned 30. September 21st, which also coincides with Armenian Independence Day. So I feel like, I wanted to take the last 10 years. I feel like, I spent my 20s just working my ass off, just creating companies, empowering entrepreneurs, trying to create what I do. And I've been very, very private with most of my work. So I feel like I wanted to kind of open up more in 2020 and just kind of like reflect and work with the community on that. It's been very successful. And I'm just so blessed to just be part of that community and play the small part that I do there. But yeah, and for my 30s, I just felt like, I wanted to do something that could just really take me back to my roots, spiritually as well, spiritually and materially. So what I did was I decided in Chiang Mai, there's like over 200 temples and Watts, Buddhist Watts. So I was like, in 2 or 3 days, I'm going to go and travel to all of a pilgrimage. And luckily, they're very close to each other. They're not spaced out too much.
Distance.
So it's not walking distance, but riding distance.
Right.
So I was able to. Many of them are actually walking distance, and they're closer to the city. Inside the city square, for example, you have over 100 just right there.
Wow.
So it's amazing, like how dedicated they are to their culture, and how they pay homage to and pay tribute for hundreds of years. It's just incredible. You can't help but be just swept off your feet, when you just approach it. It doesn't matter what your faith is, whether you're religious or not, or whatever. You just look at just the selflessness, the peace and serenity you get from these places, and you're just like, there's something there. There's an energy there that's undeniable, and that pilgrimage was to kind of keep me in check and keep me from procrastinating. I decided I'm going to share them on Twitter, and that's how the community is going to keep me going. So I shared actually all of them, over 250 temples with the community, and they were like, "Hey, you're actually taking all these photos?" I was like, yeah, I'm going to these places. So they were actually blown away. I was like, often, we create all these projects that are just amazing. Oh, Civilization 6 or whatever. I'm like, well, I think physical challenges also, they empower you, and they push you over, push you. I felt like right a week before the pilgrimage, I pushed Webflow to its limits. I was like, I need to push myself to the limits now, myself as a creator. And when you finally go on something like that, on a pilgrimage like that, it doesn't matter what type of pilgrimage. You could be scaling up a mountain. It doesn't matter. It really, it changes you. It changes you in a positive way. You really reconnect with your ecosystem, with your environment. nature, with the universe, and that was something very special for me. But so yeah, to just quickly come back and summarize Rapmaster. So my friend was actually opened up a small food truck where he was just making these burritos, and they're all homemade. And it was straight up the best wraps I'd ever had in my life. Like, and I've been in America, I've been all over the place, and it was all homemade. And it was just tiny. He was like a 23, 24-year-old chef. I met him for the first time just on my street. And I was like, I want to empower the local community here. I want to do something special. So I said, hey, listen, I'm going to turn this into a franchise. We're going to partner up. We're going to do this. He's like, Sarko, let's do it. I said, great. Okay. 3 months later, we were in Maya Mall, the second largest mall in Chiang Mai. And on launch day, we had 500 customers. We were sold out in the first 3 hours. Like, so the idea is that at Rapmaster, you don't, it's not a burrito, it's a wrap. And you can combine delicacies from different countries. And so the slogan of the business is actually roll the world, not rule the world, roll it. So
I love that play on words.
Yeah. And we have Chinese customers, we have Americans, we have Africans, we have all types of people who come here, and it's like there's something for everybody. And I was like, this is a physical, let's say the food version of my vision of like, this is what I want to do for the world, is just bring everyone together. And it just grew and grew and grew faster than any of us could imagine. And right now it's the number one wrap franchise in town. And we just recently opened our next restaurant in the other biggest mall in town, and over there it's just been going even better. So we're just expanding. We've had a bunch of offers from India and other countries as well. We're planning to open up a franchise in Spain, and it's 100% organic, all fresh, all local. And what's really cool about it is that the menu itself can adapt and is meant to adapt from city to city. So you're always going to be surprised. So this way, there's no import export. There's no GMOs. There's nothing. There's nothing unhealthy here. And it's all done within 60 seconds.
Wow.
So when people saw this
model, but without the fast food.
I call it fast fresh.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's fast fresh. Yeah. So again, nothing like that has been done before. It's a whole new concept. And that's my challenge to this excuse that, well, if it's fast food, then it can't be healthy. So, my way of working, my motto in life is don't try to be number one, try to be the only one. Don't try to compete. If everyone's building a car, build a spaceship. Learn from them and go do something different. Don't compete. If you're competing, you're just a little better than all the 100 other guys who are coming after you, And for me, that just doesn't give me any pleasure. When you look at the PS4, you look at Civilization 6. In my example, I do this, Who was doing these type of projects in the no-code community? Nobody. Not a single one. And that's why I did it. Yeah. That's why I did it. I said, okay, all of you are building the best websites. I'm going to go build a game console. It's like, It's the last thing that would cross your mind. And the moment Vlad announced it, even the team at Webflow were like, how the hell did you do that? It's like, we built this thing and we don't even know how you did it. We built Webflow and we're still amazed of how we did that. I'm like, okay, so that's really over the years, my parents really instilled that perfectionism, saying it's not good enough to just be a little better than somebody else. You really have to make an impact. So everything I do is unique. And I'm pretty fortunate in my life to this point to be in a place where I can pick the projects I want to work on. I can pick the companies I want to build. So there's no excuse for me to work on something that's subpar, that isn't, one of a kind. So with Rapmaster the last 4 years, it's been amazing. We've been able to expand. It's been a big learning experience for me. I've never done a food business before that, and before that, I was also doing another really cool company in the AI space. And what I'm focused on right now is basically building the biotech company for the last 2 years. So as you can see, really, you go from the food industry to like this completely different industry,
But isn't that different?
And with biotech, yeah.
I feel like with biotech, is it though? I feel like you, of all people, would be able to make a connection once you're deep enough in the two. Like when you start mixing biotechnology in
because
the
food
creation process, right?
Yeah, because of food. Yeah, but here it's a little different because you're applying it. I mean, you're applying it to the agriculture industry. So yeah, I mean, there is a similarity there, but the restaurant business is a completely different animal.
Right, as a
So
business. But you could
as a
feed them.
business,
There's
yeah,
some synergy
completely.
there, right? Like with the
Yeah, there's
agriculture, you could
some
feed that into the restaurants or cleaner
absolutely,
food.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a correlation. So there's Rapmaster that's live. It's been going great. And with Mirai, basically, when I was in Armenia, the previous company I was working on, basically the first startup I ever created many years ago, was actually in the AI space. I kind of picked the biggest problem I could solve, and then, unfortunately, it didn't move as fast as it was supposed to. I was stuck in Armenia trying to do it, so I wasn't able to recruit as many people, and also it was a great learning experience for me. That didn't really work out too well, so I just decided that, okay, you need to pick a horse you need to ride, and for me, like, people don't realize, like, it's not about giving up. It's about deciding when you need to focus on this and when you shouldn't focus on it anymore. When it's just not worth it. And for me, I do have this, competitive personality of like, well, no, and super dedicated. Like, if you're going to do it, go all the way. So for me, early on, I would say, just as a lesson for the community, um, move fast, learn fast, and realize that time moves very quickly. Don't If you feel like something, I'm not saying like spend 1 month or something on a project, but if you've spent a few years on a project and you feel like this is not moving as fast, it's okay to take a step back, take a breath, and reanalyze and reconfigure your plans and say, okay, this is where I need to go. So for me,
That's
I was
great.
so dedicated to that initial idea, of, again, bringing the world together just through a different medium, that all these other things that were really working well, I kind of put on hold. I was like, let me finish this one and then I'll do that one. And that it
Hmm.
put so much of what I was doing on hold. And then I just said, you know what, I need to pause this. And at the right time, I'll go back to that.
Okay, this is
So
perfect.
that's when all these other businesses and everything just, came back.
Wow. And
So
then did you
yeah,
see a huge uptick in them? Like did they just like really start
huge,
taking off?
huge. Just
Okay, this is great.
immediately.
Okay, so you're maybe the perfect person to ask this question then, because I've
Yeah.
been asking all my guests, basically, all these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
creators, the same sort of questions, which is, can you put projects on hold? And I think you definitely answered that question. Like, so for me, as you see with the VR headset back here, I've been running a VR company since 2017. And 2017, like people thought like VR was going to be the next big thing. Like that will be like the personal computer. I think we're still even now 5-10 years away from that. Like this Oculus Quest 2 is getting in the right direction, but it's been a while. So I was creating VR content. I created a SaaS platform that was all around VR content. And just like you, man, it was like, there's like this huge project. It's like, it's a big 0 to 1 project. No one's ever done what we were doing. And it was just taking up so much time, and it's moving, sludging forward. And it's very hard. Like a lot of people still don't even see the value in it. They can't see the future that far. Right. So then there's all these other projects I had going on. And it's like, at a certain point, you need to pause it. And COVID for me was like, we need to pause it because we were focusing on the events industry and film festivals. They're done this year, maybe even next year, maybe even a couple of years. So I had to put it on pause. So I guess like the big question for you then is like, once you do put it on pause, how do you make sure you keep that momentum that you've already built and not
Just
let it
revisit
completely
it.
crumble? Yeah.
Just revisit it. I would say once a month. Just revisit it. Figure out like where do we go from here. And don't be afraid of putting it down. Don't be afraid. Michael Jordan wanted to go into baseball, and then he tried it. He went into it, and he said, "No, I need to go back to basketball." He went back, absolutely crushed it, and then retired. Right?
True.
He didn't give up on baseball. He stepped away from baseball. Like he's like, okay, I tried it. I really wanted to do this, and it didn't work out the way I wanted to. This is what the universe wants for me. Now, if he was a stubborn man, he would have just kept swinging and trying. And it's like, well, that's not the universe intended for you. I do believe. I'm not a very religious person, but I'm very spiritual. I do feel like the universe. There is a lot of things we don't understand out there, and there is a flow around us. There is a invisible stream that if we just jump into that stream and flow with it and let it talk to us and engage with it correctly, it will take us in the right direction. And I feel like anytime I didn't listen to my gut, anytime I didn't listen to my heart and my feelings, it always messed up. It always messed me up. It always took me in the wrong direction, And I realized that what you want, especially this year, proved that what we want is completely irrelevant. I feel like my relationship, especially as a perfectionist, especially as a product designer, I'm always like, very detail oriented and so on. That's helped me a lot in my career, but it also hurt me a lot in my career because having that personality, it's like you end up being, in a way, kind of a control freak in a way. Like you want things to be a certain way. You work hard for something specific, and when it doesn't work out that way, you start, reacting a certain way. So for me, over the years, I just realized I became so much happier when I just let go, and I changed my relation. Instead of telling the universe, "This is what I'm going to do," I was saying, "This is what I'd like to do. This is what I'm planning to do, and if it's okay with you, this is where I'm headed. Let me know if this is the right thing." And that sounds a little cheesy when you say it that way, but really think about it. Like if you really motivate yourself, you really put
Right.
yourself in that humble mind state of, I'm trying. I'm doing it. I'm doing my best. You really start to see the signs. But when you're so determined, almost to the point of like, that reality distortion field where it's like, no, this is exactly how it's supposed to happen. You don't
Right.
notice any of the signs. You don't notice what's happening around you. Just to give you like a small example, my dad, he has all the best stories and the best aphorisms. He always has a metaphorical way of teaching me things. So, there's a story he told me when I was very young, and I think you'll resonate with it well. There's a man who's just a fanatic, and he's drowning in the sea, and you know, he's like, God, why won't you help me? He's like calling out for help, and then a boat just goes by and says, "Hey, come on, we'll help you." He's like, "No, God is supposed to help me." He's like, "All right." He just keeps calling out. One boat, two boats, three boats go by. Eventually, he drowns and goes to heaven. And he goes to God and says, "So, hey man, like you didn't help me. Like, why didn't you save me?" He's like, "Motherfucker, who was sending you all those boats? You were so blind.
Right.
You weren't able to see all the opportunities I was sending you because you wanted things to be this way, very specifically done by this person or by this thing or this power or force around you to be done like that. And that's why you weren't able to connect with what you were supposed to connect with." And I realized that for part of my career, I was like that because I do have this ability of, thinking of something, envisioning something, and it comes to life. I do have that power. I have that ability as a creator. And I realized that, I might be manifesting the wrong things. Maybe I'm not manifesting the right things. And then the moment in 2015, 2016, as I started to shift, everything just started falling into place. And that's when, I realized that my passion really is about creating an environment that can be the creator's wet dream. This can be the Disney world for creators, where it's like everyone can just have that freedom and liberty and not have to worry about investors, not have to worry about money, not have to worry about just create all the time. So that's really my main focus for the rest of my life. It's called Meraki Ventures. Meraki is the Greek word for essentially doing something with your heart, putting your soul into your work, which really defines what I want to do and what I've been trying to do my whole life. And just finding the most talented, crazy, weird people around the world and saying, "Listen, I'm going to give you all the resources you need that a startup would possibly need, and just go and focus on that and go create." And Meraki Ventures right now, basically all the companies that I've been creating is under that umbrella now, is under
That's
that
cool.
one ecosystem. And that's why I'm kind of in Thailand, is because I'm able to kind of bring all these people I work with under one umbrella and just give them all the power they need. So I'm very proud to say the companies I don't have any investors. I invested in all of them myself, and I want to keep it that way. And now the crown jewel of Meraki Ventures is called Mirai. Mirai is Japanese for future. So that's the biotech company, Mirai Biotechnology. And, just coming back to that idea of being open to the universe and seeing the boats that are going by, the opportunities that are around you. I was going through a particularly tough time with one of the projects I was working on in Armenia a couple of years ago. And at that same time, I met, he was a family friend, I met one of the top 10 scientists in all of Armenia. I had the good fortune of meeting him. His name is Alexander Solimyan. And turns out that over the past 20, 30 years, he's basically developed a probiotic, a super probiotic. These are bacteria that can completely change industrial agriculture forever. Just change the way that we consume and manufacture food to the point where we can actually decrease emissions, greenhouse emissions from industrial agriculture by over 70% within 24
Wow.
hours. We can reduce the amount of water and food that animals consume by 30, 40%. We can increase the quality of the food we consume by, just by over 100%, just completely change it. We can reduce our dependency on antibiotics. We can completely change the pollution and waste that we produce completely. So, for example, the majority of the waste now around the world actually comes from animals. We raise over 50 to 150 billion animals annually. So really, there's only like 7 billion of us, and then we're surrounded by 150 billion animals. So
Yeah,
if you think about it, we actually live on a farm. We don't really live on a planet anymore. And most of our food and water is used to raise those animals. So it's
I
a very
know.
strange kind of predicament we're in right now. It's a strange dichotomy here.
It's
So
extremely strange. Yeah.
so with his technology, we're able to completely change that. He's 75 years old, and he's tried to. His problem is, again, like I was at the time, stuck in Armenia. So Armenia is amazing. I love my culture, my people, but it's a landlocked country.
Right.
And it's tough to approach investors from there. It's tough to get access to a lot of the resources you would normally have somewhere like in something like somewhere like Silicon Valley and so on, or Europe, for example.
Yep.
So basically, we met each other. He fell in love with me. I fell in love with him, and I didn't know anything about biotech at that point. But he said, "Sako, I love your work. We talk to each other. He's a close friend of our family." And he said, basically, "Sako, I haven't been able over the last 10, 20 years to get this where it needs to be." And he's like, "I'm at the last years of my life, and this is something that can save the world and also save our country. And I think you're the right person to take the mantle." So I own the entire company. I turned it into a company, and we've already partnered with some of the biggest agriculture companies in the world. And COVID was the only thing that really got in the way. We were about to close some of these biggest deals, and that's basically going to be the company that I think is going to be the iPhone of industrial agriculture. It's going to be that make or break solution that just transforms agriculture forever, because it just cuts down the resources that are spent by 50, 60%. It just changes everything overnight. So these probiotics, these little bacteria, they are the first what we call hyperbiotics. They're super bacteria. So all you have to do is take a few grams of this powder. It's derived from milk powder, 100% organic, Josh. It's not some GMO. It's not some artificial whatever. It's 100% organic.
Jeez.
He found a way to extract these bacteria from milk and ferment them within milk, and they produce billions of amino acids. So there are 20 primary amino acids all around in nature, right? Without which all life would end. So all of our bodies, like the way these acids, they produce our hair, they produce our nails, whatever. All our body. That's why we consume food. So this powder, this hyperbiotic, contains 15 of the 20 primary amino acids inside of it, billions of it. So it's basically a steroid, an organic steroid.
Wow.
And when you mix, all you have to do is just sprinkle a little bit of this powder on the food that you feed your animals, and that's it. It completely biologically upgrades their digestive system.
Jeez.
So now all that waste that couldn't be, what do you call it? That couldn't be processed and recycled, that was being dumped and
Right.
just converted into all these greenhouse emissions, becomes pure manure, healthy fertilizer directly. Those bacteria
You're
are able to
recycling it
convert it,
all.
recycling in the
Awesome.
body before it even
Wow.
arrives. The putrid smells disappear completely. These animals are healthier. They don't have to be fed so many hormones and antibiotics now. So now humans can eat better quality food, right? Industrial agriculture is such a big industry. It's the biggest industry ever.
It
It's
is.
the
Yeah.
first industry ever. It employs 1 billion people.
Jeez. I
And
didn't know
that
that.
industry is never going to stop. And it's what produces all of our food. So the only thing we can do is optimize it, and that's really where nobody until today has been able to produce any kind of solution to just instantly optimize it. Where it's like all you have to do is add a little bit of this powder, and all of these problems get mitigated automatically.
It's crazy.
And we
It's
show this
wild.
to scientists, and they still can't believe that this is even possible. So it's actually the craziest part, Josh, is that this maybe the thing that could save the planet was been around for 20, 30 years, and we didn't even know about it because it was stuck in the middle of nowhere. So my goal with Meraki Ventures is that's what I mean by one of a kind. unique, things that can really make a difference. I weep for the amount of billions of trillions of dollars in the last 10, 20 years that we've burnt on just these mediocre fucking products of just, with respect to entrepreneurship, I don't want to disrespect anybody's hustle, but Jesus Christ, it's like we're not even looking for things that can create impact. We're just looking for like, how do I just, invest this much and get like a 3x return as fast as possible? It's like, or when they say, we're only looking for the next Google. Yeah, but the thing is, if you're only looking for the next Google, you've already set the bar. So now you'll never find anything beyond that. You're only looking for the next Google. You'll never find the next Mirai.
Something better.
You'll never. That's what I'm saying. So for me, it's like, at this point, what I want to do is I want to spend the rest of my life finding these people and empowering them and supporting them, no matter where they are around the world. No limits, no boundaries. These are not people who write business plans, man. These are people who are some of the geniuses of our planet. These people, like, they even tried going to investors, and these investors don't even understand them. That's how smart these people are, So they need to have a company they can rely on. So for me, Meraki Ventures is really about bringing together the best designers, developers, lawyers, accountants, basically all the pieces of the puzzle that a startup or company would need, and just giving these companies and these entrepreneurs and scientists all the resources they would need. So they don't even have to worry about creating a team. We already have the team. And you control your company of whatever you need. Meraki Ventures has its share of the company, whatever, the way it's structured. And everything else is taken care of. And I've pitched that to some of the best startups I've met so far, and everyone is just like, why didn't we think of that? It's like, it's just, honestly, if you really think about how much resources get spent by startups, right? They raise millions of dollars to do what? To find developers, to find designers,
exactly,
to pay them, and they usually fail because they can't find them on time, or they're in the wrong environment, or they just make some mistakes that, it's not their fault. They've never built a company before, right? So why not just find those assets, find those resources, those human resources, and have them in-house available at your disposal 24/7. You never have to look out. And then the people in that company, when you build a relationship with them, they can decide to join you full-time or just serve you whenever you need them on a freelancer basis. It's a perfect kind of environment for you. And that's really what my passion is right now. So for Mirai, that's going to be our crown jewel and the way that we fund all of our future endeavors and all of our future companies. And I just realized that this dependency on venture capital does not bode well. You have to be independent. So really my obsession for the last few years has just been doing everything in my power to basically generate income myself, to be able to fund Meraki Ventures myself and own Meraki Ventures 100% myself. So I can give a guarantee to the companies and startups and entrepreneurs I work with that they will never be screwed over. They will never be cornered. They're always going to be one step above everybody else, just because of the environment is designed that way. It's designed to give you that freedom.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's almost like a cooperative, right? Where it's like you're taking the WeWork model to a whole other level, right? But obviously you have to hand pick these. It's not just like anyone who wants to join can just join. You're going to be seeking them out. So it seems like the hardest part will actually be finding that. Like you said, these people are tucked away in countries like, the Nikola Teslas of the world, where if Edison didn't steal half these inventions, we wouldn't even have them. So there's a little bit of a drilling going on here. Can you hear that in the background, by the way?
No.
Oh, okay. So this does a really good job of
Thank you, AirPods.
blocking that out. So it should be good then. Man, that's awesome. I didn't even see, these are the things, like you have so many of these things going on, and you have this like crazy power to just create, and like this just creative energy to then taking that energy from other people and help them make it a reality. So it's like, there's all these things going on too. How do you manage all these? Like literally, like from a project management standpoint, how do you make sure that you're moving in the right direction, you have the right goals? I'm sure like having partners helps, but from your end, how do you manage multiple projects at once like this?
Well, you said it best, having the right people around you. My job is not to micromanage. My job is to find the right people for the right teams and the right company. So there are some companies, I always start off very hands-on in the beginning. I always say, like, if I invest in you, if we work together, I'm not your investor. You're working with a founder. You're working with somebody who has succeeded and failed miserably, like, on both spectrums. So for me, I have the battle scars to be able to, dive into that journey with you. And that's something I'm very, very proud of. To be able to tell the difference between this and that. And, that also helps you just have such an open mind. You don't have kind of these, early on, these fantasies anymore about how things are going to be. And, you have a much more realistic perspective on how companies work, how investment works, how a lot of these things come together. And that gives you a lot of power, a lot of freedom to maneuver things correctly. So with the companies what I do is, say in the case of Rapmaster, for example, I worked on it in the first 6 months to a year. I gave them, worked very closely with the team, aligned perfectly with where they need to go. And then I automated it. My goal after that is to spend maybe, 5-10 hours a month, just sitting down with the teams, making sure the company's in the right direction and going from there. And my job is not to micromanage you or tell you how to do your job. If I have to tell you how to do your job, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And that's really what I look out for. So it's not like, okay, let me just trick them. Let me go ahead and give them the freedom. This is what a lot of investors do. Let me go be friends with them and support them. And then I know they're going to fail. And when they fail, I'm going to swoop in and just take over. I've dealt with investors like that. It's just stupid.
Hostile takeover bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. I've dealt with that kind of nonsense. And it never bodes well for the investor or the founder or anyone else. It's just unnecessary. You have to really have the right approach. If you're going to be working closely with the company, then work closely. If you're not going to, then you have to be ready for that risk. That, this might happen or that might happen, right? Especially if it's a first-time entrepreneur. But in my case, I realized what I want to do is, especially as a creator, entrepreneur, product designer, the real mark of a successful creator is that your creation can walk on its own 2 feet. That it's not going to just fall on its ass the moment you walk out of the room, And Rapmaster just proved that even during COVID, we were able to all the other businesses are closing. Rapmaster opened its next branch. It's one of the most successful businesses in town. And that's my point, is the loyalty level. We get 5 stars every day. Like, the community is just like, these people care about us, and even the campaigns we create, man. Like, no limits, no boundaries. That's really the point of Meraki Ventures, is that just do what nobody else would ever do. Care about your customer, about your community so much that it's just almost unbelievable. Like, what we did, our campaigns, nobody's doing our campaign. Check this out. We created a Google Calendar with basically every Independence Day of every country. On your Independence Day, you eat for free.
That is so cool. That is awesome.
That's it. So July 4th, for example, all you have to do is take a selfie and put it online and say, hey, today I'm celebrating my whatever. We did that. We do that every single Independence Day of every country. And then the first of each month is Rapmaster Day, which everybody eats for free.
Wow.
The mall got
that's
me
so crazy to me. Like, you wouldn't see that kind of business going up in North America. Like, you just don't see that. They just can't.
Yeah, but nobody would even try that, except with us, because we're organic and fresh and local. Our prices are so low and aggressive and competitive that for us to do a campaign like that is maybe $200-$300, but we get tens of thousands of dollars worth of value
for the rest of the month.
We don't spend $1 on marketing, not one. We don't do just a bunch of Facebook ads and whatever. We don't need to. The community is word of mouth. And the community, not just that, on your birthday, you eat for free. On your anniversary, you and your couple, you and your wife, your husband eat for free. On, Father's Day, you come with your dad, you eat for free. On Mother's Day, call your mother, you eat for free. It's basically like every single holiday you can imagine. We celebrate you. We appreciate you. And the community is like, this is unbelievable. And if you want to know the real value of that, check this out. On the Independence Day of Barbados, I think it was Barbados, or I can't remember, it's the Caribbean islands, the particular country. So one person showed up, to celebrate, one person. And he put a video up, and 6,000 people found out about Rapmaster. You know how much it cost me, Josh? $1.
Wow. That's
I gave him one rap, but that he was like, hey, it's my first time in Thailand. He did the video. And he's like, you guys are celebrating my country? Like, why? That's what everyone's reaction is. Like, why are you celebrating? I'm like, don't you deserve to be celebrated? And they're always stumped. Like, Jesus, this company actually cares about me. It's like, it's not a 10% discount. It's not like we're doing Apple product red or some campaign or
Right.
something. This is free. Like, what
100%.
excuse is there? I mean, maybe this person only showed up for one day in Chiang Mai. Maybe he's flying tomorrow. He's not even a returning customer. Accept
Right.
that person. Love trumps everything else. When you can really share that love with the community, it comes back tenfold. And I've been able to prove that through my own example, through my own companies, which do it every day. Even my own team is stopped because in Thailand, they don't have a culture of free. It's always like 5% discount, 2% discount. I actually have to stop doing Rat Master Day at some of the malls because the mall was like, every time you do that, Sako, the entire food court loses 60% of their income.
Wow.
It's like your marketing. We can't stop you legally, but we're begging you to not do that anymore.
Wow. So what'd
Because
you do? Did you have to stop
didn't
it?
cross. I did stop. I was like, I don't want to be the hated person there anymore because
No,
dude, you
exactly.
don't understand. You don't know what it looks like. It's a line going out the freaking back, dude. You go in there, it looks like there's a mob. It's like, what are they doing here? They're eating a rat. It boggles the mind.
It
And I
does.
was
That's
like,
so
well, that's
cool.
what love is when you treat people that way. And that's something that can scale. So, something else we do is that when we do these guest delicacies because Rat Master is all about delicacies, right? So we actually go to neighboring restaurants and we say, we could actually feature your delicacy on our menu as a special. And we'll tell the customer, like, this is, for example, hummus or falafel from, Sababa, which is one of the best Israeli, for example, Middle Eastern restaurants in town. And we did that, and the community was just blown away. Like, oh my god! And you know how many people went to Sababa? The owner came over, hugged me. He's like, bro, this is awesome. Our business during COVID wasn't doing too well, and you just featured us, and we just had a bunch of new customers, for example. What does that do to me, Josh? Do I lose anything by doing that?
No, man.
When did
It's
sharing the love ever hurt you?
honestly.
You
And
know,
I love that mindset, man. I love that mental model and just like the way that you conduct yourself in business because it's like people are always playing, I always call it, the finite and infinite games. I don't know if you've read the book or heard of it. Incredible.
yeah.
And you're taking that to the next level. It's like there is this finite game where you said, like, if you're giving away free stuff, the rest of the mall's losing 60%. But then there's the infinite game from your end of like, yeah, but we're giving stuff away for free. We can afford to do that. And it just keeps boosting us up. So it's almost like you've cracked the code. You've created some kind of algorithm within that business that's just like, it's unsustainable everywhere else. But if they also all did it, you could show them, hey, yeah, but if you guys all did this the very next day, your business will do just as well as us.
Listen,
And everyone gets free food every fucking day.
Exactly.
Like,
and look, that thing, when the iPod came out, Microsoft comes out with the Zoom.
yeah.
Why? They literally showed you the way. This is
Yeah.
how a product should be. And you decided we're going to create this piece of shit device instead.
Yeah.
It's like, why? They just got the Darwin Award. I don't know how many times Microsoft got the Darwin Award. They're the recipient for like the 27th time at this point. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I always wondered, I was like, well, why don't people do it? When I was younger, I even told my dad, who's also a very talented entrepreneur. I get everything from him and my mom. My mom is the artist, the singer, the actress. My dad is the entrepreneur, the photographer, the designer. So I kind of like got best of both worlds.
That's awesome.
And so, and so I asked my dad years ago, I said, Dad, why don't people do this? And he's like, well, believe it or not, it's not because they can't. It's because they just don't care. I was like, it can't be that. There must be like something holding them back. It's like, no, son, you'll understand one day. And when I launched Rat Master, I just saw just how careless these other businesses are. They don't even, there's no sense of, customer service. There's no service at the core of their business. And then you look at Rat Master, it's like everything is service. We just had Halloween, for example. You should have just seen the reaction the community had. We just said, hey, any family that comes with their kids in costumes eat for free.
That's awesome.
You know
So
how many
cool.
families came? We had families out the back, dude. And
Jeez.
they always come back and we have families who are like, no, we still want to pay. You guys are so kind to us. Like, it's such a relationship with the community that I wouldn't trade that for the world, man. I wouldn't trade that for any amount of money. And I honestly think that can be scaled. And that's why for me, I think the biggest learning lesson was, well, culturally, when you're building a business, you have to respect where you're building it. Thailand is a very different culture. It's not aggressive business first capitalist. It's very like humble. I'm happy with what I have. So you can't, like, the people here, they're much more relaxed and peaceful with their tactics. They don't try to scale too quickly and so on. And for many of them, it's really new territory. Like, oh my God, like Rapmaster, my partner was just like shocked, with how fast the business was growing. He's like, he's never seen 500 people in his life, and he saw 500 people showing up that way. We had security coming down from 6th floor. They thought there was a riot downstairs.
Jeez.
Like, they had no idea. It's like the people are here for the food, and and then the mall got confused because all the security were downstairs standing in line to get their free wrap as well. So we were actually
we're doing it as well.
They're all
That's so cool.
So the police we were distracting the police. So in a nutshell, man, I think really what I'm optimizing for is, I'm really grateful that at 30, I've been able to find what I'm really passionate about, and the thing that I would do for not just this lifetime, but probably the next 3 or 4 lifetimes if I had a chance. How many people can say that, Josh? How many people can actually say
very few.
Very few. And that's my point. I really felt lost for a lot of my life because I had all these possibilities. I could be a pianist. I could be a drummer. I could be this. I'm a singer. I'm doing whatever. I could do so many different things. And I was like, what is the thing that makes my life matter? Like really not just makes me and my life matter, but the impact I can create long term. And I realized that there is nothing beyond Meraki Ventures. Nothing. Because when I look at something, it's the pinnacle. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not one thing. That environment breeds so many companies and so many other entrepreneurs.
It's got to be an ecosystem. Yeah.
And that's why Twitter is so valuable. And the no-code community is so, kind of segue into that. The no-code community is really just so powerful and so driven by community because they understand that, community is the way forward. That's why everybody starts by building a community, right?
Yeah.
And if you look
the hard way this year,
you go.
Like, you can't really launch a product without the community first. You can't launch a book or a movie or anything. You got to have something.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And be loyal to it. And that's why with the no-code community, you'll notice that the same tactics I'm using for Rapmaster and Mirai and the rest, I'm using the same tactics for the no-code community. All my projects are clonable pretty much.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, it's not that you just build this and show them. It's like, here, for people listening who don't really know, like in Webflow, you can literally clone the project. It's like he's built it for you. You can get all of the pieces, everything, and then he kind of walks you through it. And man, that's totally right. That's exactly it. Everything you've done has been clonable. Most people who create something that big, like, no, it's mine. It's like my own little thing. And you're just like, no, screw that. If anyone else wants it, you want to build off this, keep it going. It's the infinite game, man.
What shocks me is that, a lot of people, they just try to hack the no-code community. They try to kind of take advantage of these tactics. Let me be kind because I want something from you. And I even noticed first time when I launched the project, I was really new to the Twitter community. I didn't know even how Twitter really worked because I was more into the social side. I wasn't really into Twitter and stuff.
Right.
And they said, why don't you do these paid courses? I'm like, dude, you don't understand. Whenever I release one of these clonables, these giant clonables, I get like 30 to 50 companies reaching out to me and saying, we'd like to collaborate with you. Like, I have no reason to make it paid. No reason whatsoever. And, my philosophy, as my parents instilled in me, has been 90% give, 10% take. But when you give so much, that 10% becomes so valuable, such a big amount that you can't say no to that, and that's what I'm really proud of, is that I was able to, again, prove that if you just give consistently, not with the purpose of, not planting the seeds because you want to sit under the tree, but you plant seeds because you're in love with planting seeds. Because that's what you're made to do. That's what you were born to do, right? It becomes really who you are. It becomes something that people see from a mile away or 10,000 miles away. They really start to feel your passion and your energy. And for me, I think that's contagious, and that's something I can teach people. I can show them. And if that's who you are, you'll be able to pick it up very easily. If it's not who you are, it doesn't matter how much I tell you, how much I show you. You'll never be able to. You can replicate it very poorly, right? We've seen that all the time. Someone starts a community, and then literally a week later, he's trying to sell something. Like, here's my ebook or whatever.
100%.
And I hate that shit. I'm like, listen, consistently just provide that value. And then when the time is right, do that. But when you have literally 100 followers and you're trying to sell me on your ebook or something, like you really have no idea what. This is not the way to do that, you know. And until today, I've never sold anything in the no-code community, not one thing.
But it's all been free clonables. Yeah.
Yeah, and what the community they keep asking me, they're like, well, whoever finds out about my other life, they're like, well, why are you still doing this stuff? I'm like, because I'm a product. I don't, and for me, it is very pressured, you know. And Mirai and Rapmaster are my main focuses right now. Each year, I want to focus on like 2 or 3 companies, so I don't deviate too much, you know. Right. But it is a real pressure cooker, and it's not always easy. You don't always get, you don't get enough sleep. So the way I stay focused is actually being able to have something very productive, very creative I can focus on. And so each quarter, I like to take on a couple of design projects from the community and say, no, I can work on this with you. You know, just recently we had some of the big no-code companies actually reach out to me and say, we'd like to have you as a product designer to collaborate with over the next few weeks. You know, we'd love to get your insights and stuff. Like, so that's awesome. Or, you know, a collaboration with
product. Use the product and then get your insights on you actually.
No, to build the product.
To build the actual no-code product.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So I've been able to, you know, develop these products for some of these companies and, you know, help them kind of guide their vision and show them, you know, my forte after having built so many products myself is I'm very good at finding mistakes and finding abstract solutions to problems. So, you know, I take one look at a product, I can give you like 5-10 things that could be better. And these companies, they really love that. And I'm brutally honest. You know, I'm very critical in a constructive way when it comes to product.
Yeah, it comes from the place of love. Like, it could be better. Yes, it's not like, hey, this thing sucks. Better. Yeah, it's like, I just want it to be better. Yeah.
Hey, listen, my thing is life is fucking short. Life is too short to use a shit product.
100%.
You know, and I want everyone to be super successful. I don't want anyone to be as successful as me. I want to be more successful than me. And to do that, I know that I have to bring the heat. I have to bring the fire. And if you can handle the fire, you'll be so much better. But if you 100%. If you take things personally, if you're too attached to your design or your ego or your whatever, you know, I learned very early on to not be attached at all to my ideas or my designs or whatever. You know, just let it flow. Keep going. Like you know, you take that feedback and just build on top of it as fast as you can. Implement. Don't get stuck to anything. You know, and that's how you end up in a really successful place.
Totally. And how much of that do you think is like natural talent versus, you know, just like the brute force, like iteration? How much of it is like, hey, the first time I dive into it, you know, the first design's great. And like even that, most people, like 99% of the people, be like, that's the product. And then obviously there's like layers 50-50. And levels to it, but how much of it is natural talent compared to, you know, anyone can learn it? Do you think there's specific types of people that can do this?
It's 50-50.
Yeah.
I think that no matter how talented you are, there's a certain discipline they have to go through. And I think the most talented people actually tend to have the most difficulty because they have all these abilities that they're, you know, it's kind of like Superman trying to learn how to fly. You know, he's going to crash around a lot until he finally flies, you know. And I feel like a lot of designers, you can ask them, especially the most talented ones, you know, ask Johnny Ive how many times he's failed.
Right. You know, stuff that we haven't even heard about. Yeah.
He says like the iPhone or whatever, he says we went through like 1,000 iterations literally of prototypes before we even like created one version that you like and enjoy, man. It's like, you know, it's not easy at all. It takes brute force. It takes a lot of discipline and patience to be able to deliver a great product. I think that if you think you've built the right product in the first go, then it's the wrong product.
Absolutely.
And it's the wrong attitude. It's the wrong approach. It can't ever be the right product because you have not spent enough time with that product. Not because it's not the right idea. You could have the concept right, you could have the vision right, maybe the look and feel could be very close to what it's supposed to be, and so on and so forth. But the vision has not even begun yet. You have not allowed it to grow yet. That's like having a child, and the child demonstrates certain traits. And you're just like, my son just caught a ball. He's going to be the best baseball player ever. You know, like, it's like, yeah, but you didn't even let your son grow. Maybe he will be the best, but maybe he's a basketball player. Just because he caught a ball, yeah, that part you got right. He's a good ball catcher. But the part you didn't understand is maybe in what context that talent is going to be applied. And in the case of a product, When you see something works, you feel like this feature is great. People are resonating with this feature. Don't just go on product hunt 3 hours later and launch this thing. Give it time. Let it evolve. Let the community come back to you. And if your intuition is right, good for you. What I like to think is, this is the way I like to feel about it. Over time, you will get better and better at iterating. When in the beginning it might have taken you 50 iterations to build it, it might take you 25 now. Then it'll take you 15. Then it'll take you 10. But it will never take you 2.
Right.
Not because it can't, but because you, as a skilled, as an experienced designer, should not even consider that success. 2 is not even an option. You already know as a creator that 2 is not enough time.
No.
Also, all the ideas, think about how many other iterations could add on top of that product and make it better. But you didn't let it happen because you were just so pleased with yourself. Pat me on the back, everyone. You just killed it, right? And the same thing happened with my prototypes, even Civilization 6 and the other ones, was just, I gave it weeks of time. Civilization was built over 3 weeks in my free time. And I'll tell you, every time I not only rebuilt Civilization 6 with almost every single element in the game, I actually improved it. I rebuilt certain aspects of the game where even the creators were like, oh, that's really cool. We didn't think of that. And I was like, that's because I went so deep into your game, into your logic. I started seeing illogical mistakes. I started seeing UI, UX mistakes that you didn't even notice because you have tunnel syndrome. You know, you have tunnel vision as a team. You spend so much time on something, you just don't see it anymore. You don't see those mistakes.
Right.
And gamers, they're so in the game, they don't even notice. They don't care about these things.
Totally.
Unless it's something that really breaks their experience, they're not even going to notice it. But for me, I had to actually go and screenshot 1,200 individual assets from that game. And I started noticing, like, there were literally boxes that were overlapping each other. There was grammatical mistakes. There were a bunch of mistakes in the credits, which I rewrote by hand, literally the whole credits of that game. I went through, this is the biggest Webflow project ever.
That's fucking insane, man.
That's my point, is like that kind of attention to detail rarely happens in the no-code space.
It doesn't. And like, it almost seems like the only way to really approve on it is you need to have fresh eyes. Like,
yes.
Whatever you're creating. So do you do that? Do you have like a design partner or someone that you collaborate with that kind of like picks apart your stuff? Yeah.
So actually, this is a nice, I told you that each year I like to focus on a couple of companies. So the third one that we're launching, which coincides with the macOS in January, is called Protocore. And the idea is that basically all this experience in product design that I've had, I know that as Mirai and Meraki Ventures is taking off faster and faster, you know, I've been working on it for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been really like preparation for what's coming now, you know, with the teams and setting up the ecosystem and environment. I'm going to have to do Meraki Ventures full time, you know, very soon. I won't be able to spend as much time in no-code space and everything as I wanted to. So I was like, okay, I have a partner named Todd Siegel, who is a very talented prototyper, product designer as well, and he's worked with some of the best in the industry. You know, he's about 10 years older than me, and we just, you know, fell in love with each other's work over the years. And he used to work at Proto.io at the time in 2012, 2013.
That's cool.
And I was using Proto.io. That was like one of my first prototyping. And I kind of followed and admired his work from a distance. And then years later, he saw my PS4 prototype when I launched it in January. In February, he just, you know, he messaged me. He was like, dude, this is like amazing work. I was like, dude, I've been admiring your work forever. Like, so we need to get on a phone call right now. So we just hopped on a Zoom call immediately. And we just decided we want to create a company that can take all of our values of product design, prototyping, creating MVPs, and so on, and just infuse that into one company. And I know a lot of incredible makers who are not very good at finding clients, who don't necessarily have the kind of relationships that I've had the good fortune of developing over the years. So I just said, you know, what if Protocore, if we took all these amazing Civilization and the macOS and all these projects, we put it under one umbrella as a company dedicated to 3 things. 1, pushing the boundaries just to the edge of no-code tools. And what I've been doing individually, I want it to be done by a company, not by one person. As one person, I'm corruptible. I can be put down, you know, to quote Batman. But as a company, we can be much bigger. We can be a symbol for the community. We can be much more. So Todd and I realized, okay, let's go ahead and Protocore define it as Protocore is going to be pushing the boundaries of no-code tools. We're going to be working directly with these companies, developing relationships with them, and exposing their power by building these type of projects. So, one of the things I'm doing now is I built the PS4, and now I'm also building the PS5 in Webflow. That's going to be coming out soon as well.
Can't wait for that.
It's crazy that I was able to kind of build both in the same year. I wasn't expecting the PS5 to come out this year, so it was like a perfect ending. It was like January we launched PS4, and then December we launched PS5. So that's
great way
cool.
to close that book up.
Great way to segue. Exactly.
Mic drop on that one.
Bingo. And then on Bubble, I want to build the Xbox.
Oh, nice. And
so
just to play around with it, play around with that tool and really get to know it?
No, Bubble is way more powerful than Webflow when it comes to workflows and developing apps and so on and so forth, right? They're both very powerful, but Bubble is more for applications and software and so on. It's not. Webflow is more for the web experience.
More design focused.
More design focused. I know e-commerce and so on. Yeah, but I know Webflow is. They're planning to release workflows, and they're trying to go into application design soon as well. So I know that's coming. It's in their roadmap. They've been very public and vocal about that. But yeah, with Bubble, I've really admired the team. I have a good relationship with them. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and build the best example of Bubble, like what's possible with Bubble. And so what's cool is I can actually make the Xbox more than a prototype because there's workflows. There's actually signing in, signing up. There's all these other things. So, I'm working on that secretly as well. So all these projects are going to be coming under Protocore. The second part of Protocore is the education side. So actually teaching the community and doing master classes. Like, for example, in December, we're doing an interview between me, Sid Meier, the creator of Civilization, and Vlad Magdalin, the founder and CEO, the co-founder CEO of Webflow. So it's going to be a very special session. So all these type of educational experiences are going to be under Protocore. And then the third part is actually bringing the Makerverse together. I like to call it the Makerverse. So things like, doing these events, doing hackathons, I want to build, like, for example, the first exclusive kind of newsletter that can bring together the best content from all of these companies. So you get like exclusive content from everyone every week. We want to do like weekly Zoom calls. We call them maker streams. So Josh, we talked about that of like, we could even host that together.
100%.
So all these kind of things are going to be under Protocore. And the website of Protocore itself is going to be the macOS. So that's the reason why I'm rebuilding the macOS. It's going to be the actual website of the company. And the agency, obviously by doing all of this work, a lot of makers and a lot of companies are going to find out about us. So they're going to want to collaborate with us. So that's going to be an opportunity for me to actually deliver, take product design itself to the next level. I want Protocore to define prototyping and creating MVPs, and allow more makers to connect with these big companies and get more opportunities and jobs from them. So I think that instead of just creating a job board or something, we can actually create an opportunity for these makers to work directly with them immediately. So that's something I'm very passionate about. So Protocore, Mirai, and Rapmaster. That's my 2020 focus.
2020 focus. That's awesome. So yeah, it's going to be crazy to see where things go. And like, especially as this year wraps up and you start new things over the next year. But what I love about all of that, man, is like you said, it's like you have all these things, but your public persona, or at least in the Twitter space and obviously Webflow as a community, it has a little bit of a social network-ish.
Yes.
You've been very, very quiet about all these things that we've been talking about with your other projects, which I'm so glad that we're able to talk about this stuff, because that's what this podcast is about. It's a mind meld, man. Like I don't believe that anybody is just like one thing. Like when I first saw you, I'm like, man, this guy's so fucking good. He must just be like a freelance designer and like he has his own company and that's just all he does. Then when you start opening up and saying, no, dude, like that's what I do for fun, to just show people what we can do and then build a whole other company around that to empower more creators. But I also do this, this, and this. That's what I fucking love, man. It's not like, even for me, it's like this podcast isn't my full-time job. This is something I do for fun. So I can talk to incredible people like you, hear your stories, get incredible just like knowledge and mental models that you share that I would not be able to get at otherwise. And then I can put it online for other people to listen to and share it with them. So it's like, man, I'm so grateful that you came on this podcast. I know we were talking about wanting to do some screen shares so you could showcase
Yes.
The work. Let's do that for a little bit right now. I think we can end it off with that to show people, and I'll also put the links in the description. So for anyone who wants to look into it, you can create a free Webflow account and clone his projects and start playing around with it as well. If you like, hey, how is the macOS built? How is PS4 UI built? You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can kind of end it with you showcasing that work. But I think for the audio version too, if you're listening just on like Spotify or anything, I want to end off with a few final questions before we get into the screen share, because anyone listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're going to have to go over to YouTube to see this work. But I really wanted to do a little screen share session. So before we get into that, I just want to ask you, basically, it's 4 questions that kind of just boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
The first one, going to be pretty quick. It's just sort of like, what challenges are you currently facing right now? So you're doing all these different things and you're showcasing amazing work and you're doing a lot. Like, what are the challenges that you're facing right now?
Specifically in the no-code space?
Just in general. It could be in the no-code space specifically, or it could be sort of like the challenges of making it all work and having all these projects kind of meld together. Whatever it is that you are currently facing as a challenge.
Well, Meraki Ventures for me is the biggest challenge. Just fine tuning that community and figuring out what is the long term. What is the best way to set that up. This is a very new thing. I even see any examples of anyone having ever done that. Like, it's not just some co-working space or something. No. It's basically it's a whole kind of different model. I kind of call it like venture capital evolved. It's what venture capital wants to be when it grows up. It kind of surprises me that a lot of these companies, they go for the easy route, right? I'm just going to go raise investment and go build my company. I'm like, well, you realize that these investors, they've created so many companies, invested in so many companies, they know all the pitfalls, but they don't really give you that expertise. They're just giving you money. And I feel like these startups think, if I just had $5 million right now, all my problems would be solved. You don't get it. Money is just a bigger burden and bigger weight you're going to have to carry. Yes, it'll help you have certain things you didn't have before, but you're going to be paying a much higher price for that slice of of the pie, of that little bit of heaven that you want to have, that little bit of American dream you want to have. But what I would rather have is a company that was completely geared towards like supporting me as an entrepreneur and making sure I never fall into those pitfalls. Not necessarily taking over my company or doing it for me, but helping me do it together, and being kind of almost like this outsourced team that's just like available. It's almost insourced. It's not even outsourced. It's right there in front of you. You can use it anytime you like, and you don't have to worry about equity. You don't have to worry about paying anybody. It's all done by us. That's what shocked, for example, Mirai, our scientist community. It is like they were like, well, what's the catch? I'm like, there is no catch. The catch is we only work with one-of-a-kind products. You have to be the only one. And that's what justifies putting so much money and giving you so much freedom, because we know it's worth it. But I can't do that for 500 companies. Right. You know what I mean? So and also these companies, the rule is, if you're in Meraki Ventures, you are part of the Meraki family, which means all the companies work together. So for example, Rapmaster has already invested in Mirai. Mirai has already invested in Rapmaster. All these companies work together. They all help each other. So it really is, they say, tell me who your friend is, I'll tell you who you are. My dad said, I say, show me your product and I'll tell you who you are. Like, Meraki Ventures really personifies me in every way. It's built by me. It's based on my values. It's based on how I would want to see the world. I say this all the time, because of those values and based on kind of my abstract way of creating things and seeing the world around me, I'm actually very uninvestable. You really can't keep up with me. Like, the way I think, the way I work, the way I build things. And I just realized early on, like, whenever I had freedom to just take really big risks and I had full control to do it, it always worked out. But whenever I have to worry about what this person thinks, or like, being accountable to these 5 people or whatever, like, it just creates this weird kind of like environment where it's like, your mind almost, your body, your muscles aren't able to move the way they're supposed to. You're constantly like, fiddling. You're not really sure how you're supposed to move. But when you're in the ocean, you're there. You have complete freedom to swim the way you're supposed to. You're just free. You can go where you need to go, and you're not worried about making a mistake. It's like, hey, it's my money.
At the end of the day, yeah.
I'd love to make those because it's my money. I did it my way. That's fine. It brings us back to that point of like 25 iterations and 20 iterations and 15 iterations. So I feel like I wouldn't want to have this model 10 years ago. I was too young. I wasn't ready to have that kind of freedom. But having gone through the ringer, having gone through the circus we call Silicon Valley, having gone through all this kind of, now I'm at a point where it's like I know exactly what I fucking want. And I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm blessed to have so many advisors and people around me who are like, Sarko, if you succeed, this is going to be the craziest thing in venture capital.
Yeah.
If you fail, it's still going to be the craziest thing.
It's a win-win.
Like, so
you can't
go
lose.
for it. So
yeah,
I think my biggest challenge is balancing that and balancing my time, learning how to balance my passion. Like I have this, one of my problems is that I kind of can just lose track of time when I get really passionate about something. Like I don't want to be held back with time. Like, okay, we want to spend on this product, we have to spend 1 hour. If we have to go 2 hours, I want to be able to go 2 hours. But the thing is, now you also have responsibilities with other companies. So like finding the time to balance that is a challenge. But that's just comes with the territory of building a fucking ecosystem that's supposed to be, supporting itself. On the other side, when it comes to the no-code community, I feel like the challenge I have there is saturation, man. There's just so much stuff happening, and not all of it is really on the level that it can be or should be. And I feel like I'm trying to find a way to create the right model for the no-code community. And Protocol is a whole totally different concept, is an agency kind of concept. So for me, I'm trying to find a balance of how to do that correctly, and also how can I create the most impact for the community. So I feel like I just have to be able to spend a lot more time with the makers and understand their problems, what they have in the community, so I can address them. And find the balance between all of these companies and products and teams is really is always going to be, I think, my main challenge. It's always going to be that, just because it just keeps growing, but if I can automate it as much as possible, that would be.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that's the only way to do it, because it's ever evolving, ever growing. I think you said it best earlier on, of just like let it go with the flow, do your best that you can, and it'll just kind of go from there. Man, that's awesome. So maybe this sort of answers my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. So what is something that you're super excited about coming up, like in all aspects? Ooh. Yeah.
I think 2021 is going to really be the no-code wars are going to start in 2021, because a lot of these products, like, they're moving out of this website creation mode. Until now, Webflow and all these tools they're really obsessed with just like, how can we build better websites? Mm-hmm. And then now with Bubble and tools like Builder and Clutch and these others coming out that are just allowing you to just develop entire app suites inside of them. Like now at this point, building websites is just a gimmick at this point. And I say this all the time, and designers have a love-hate relationship with that statement, but like the web design is dead. Web design is absolutely dead. Like it's just essentially recycling the web. Creating websites is artistic expression, but it's not art. It's very functional. A website cannot be too abstract. If it's too abstract, then the user gets confused, and they don't know how to use it. So it's not like a game or something. Like it really, like you have to respect. There's a lot of like rules, written and unwritten, when it comes to web
patterns of the web, of
patterns.
How navigation works.
Yes. And that's why there's a whole
with the templates stuff. People are just recycling templates, and if you want to do that, you're better off just buying a template and just putting in your
bingo. Yeah. Exactly. So, I feel like now we have a chance to finally say, okay, web design is how it started. That was the entry point for a lot of these tools. But now we're finally going to see the full potential of these tools. And I think next year, there's a very good chance that Webflow will actually fall behind. Because I know Bubble is going to be releasing their new UI and everything very soon. And I say this all the time, if Bubble had the interface and the experience of Webflow, they would be unstoppable.
Game over. That I've been thinking the exact same thing. I tried many times to get into it, but again, like you, having that product designer UI UX mindset, I'm just like, I can't fucking look at this. I will wait.
Yeah.
I'm maybe, there's a lot of early adopters. Like I'll deal with it. Because I get the functionality. I'll deal with the crap. I can't. I'll wait for that update and then I'll go all in. But I totally agree.
And for no code, and for no code, that's my main thing that I'm most excited about. And for Meraki Ventures, with Mirai, we were closing our biggest deal. It was like a $70 million deal. We were closing it in February. We were, and then the COVID nonsense began. Yeah. So for a lot of things, if anything, the universe just said, listen, everything's going to happen at the right time. You just have to, let things flow. And I'm very, very happy about that. I'm so happy that I don't have to feel like the whole weight of the world is on my shoulders. Like what is supposed to happen will happen. What isn't supposed to happen won't, no matter how much you try. Just let it go, let it flow. And I think that's become the motto for my entire life at this point. And I would not have what I have today if I didn't just go with the flow. If I was so uptight and so worried about what this person's doing, so like, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? It's like, just go with it. And the thing I'm most excited about is Mirai getting back to its pace, back to its rhythm again. We're already getting back this month, but getting back to where we need to be now that the borders are opening up again. It's a very physical endeavor. You have to send samples. You have to go do the tests. There's a lot of things, that are involved when you're doing a biotech company. It's not the same as, I just shipped my product on Product Talk. Like it's not like that. Like, can you upvote my product? Like it's not that simple.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hoping, I think next year will be the year of biotech. And I've looked at the biotech space. I've seen what people are doing. And much respect to everybody's work. It's a very difficult industry, but nobody even scratches the fucking surface of what's about to come. And I think the time all of you are going to find out about my work is going to be not through me or my interviews. It's going to be when you finally see what Mirai is. And that's you're going to find out through an independent news source.
Really?
Yeah. I've been very quiet about Mirai. It's kind of literally like telling people, hey, we can cure cancer in 24 hours for $1.50. It's just ridiculous. Like it's until you see it on mass scale, it's just impossible to explain this to anybody. And I've tried, man. Believe me, I've tried. And that's why all these, reporters we talk to and stuff, they're like, hey, can we break it now? Everyone wants an exclusive. I'm like, no, it's not time. This is not something you start with a small farm. You have to do this with the largest industrial agriculture businesses, companies. Like the ones in Spain we're working with, they have like 7 million animals, livestock. They're one of the third largest in the country. They just spent $150 million on their farm last year alone, just expanding their farms.
That's wild.
We got New Hope. We have New Hope in China, which, they're the biggest agriculture company over there. They handle all the food, manufacturing, industrial agriculture stuff over there, livestock management and so on. So we're just going straight to the top and telling them, hey, listen, we can cut your costs down by 50% in 24 hours. You don't have to worry about anything. We're sending you free samples right now. We got a ton of our product like arriving in the ship port right now. Go pick it up, feed it to your animal, give me a phone call, and you'll see.
Go from there.
And that's all it is. The product speaks for itself.
Are you worried about US companies like Big Pharma and those guys? Because that's something that I don't know much about the industry, but like just from seeing other documentaries, that's where my mind automatically goes.
They should be worried about us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because the thing is with them, like, it's a love-hate relationship. It's like you can't live with us and you can't live without us, because our product actually solves so many problems for everybody, including Big Pharma, that they can't solve right now. They get so much heat for the emission problem. They get so much heat from climate activists. They get so much heat from the government for a lot of the, mistakes they're making. We can solve all those problems. So it's like, yeah, we're not very happy that this company has a complete monopoly over this super probiotic, but also without that product, we're back to square one. So it's such a shift. That's why I say, like, when the iPhone came out, everyone went back to the drawing board. Everybody.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah, the smartphone industry is now here. Like, it just changed everything overnight, and that's my point. This is that kind of product. It's a complete game changer. And it's not just we're starting with animals, we're starting with livestock, but then it also applies to the baking and alcohol industry. It also applies to humans. There's so many use cases for this product.
Can humans take it? It's safe for humans?
Yes, they can. It's great for humans, and that's my
Wow.
point. Is but humans is a whole other industry. That's medicinal already. That's
Yeah.
not just food. That's very
FDA
difficult.
approvals and
You got to
yeah.
be very careful with that. So for me, my main goal right now is just figuring out, okay, how do I, like, where do you start with this? Like,
Mm.
how do you tackle this correctly? And, allow these scientists to just continue innovating, creating what they're supposed to. And also making sure our products are able to solve some of these problems, hopefully before we irreversibly damage our planet. That's what I'm most excited about. COVID is also a result of bad food manufacturing practices. It's all coming from the food industry, man.
Yep.
What we eat impacts our life more than anything else. And that's my point, is like we kind of have to realize that finally, that all of our oceans are being depleted. All of our food is being manufactured using these toxins and all these, toxic elements. Like, there's just no reason why this needs to happen. No one is saying let's all become vegan. Okay.
No,
And that's
but
just
that's
like
one of the reasons I stopped eating meat. I'm like, this is the only thing
like,
I can do right now until it changes. I stopped eating meat. I had
well,
to.
now there is one thing you can do now. And this is actually a message out to everybody before we go into no-code stuff again. Check this out. I'm using the same sharing is caring model that I developed with Rapmaster and my other businesses, which is we're actually one of the first biotech companies to franchise. I'm using the franchising model that I learned doing the restaurant business. I said, what if I apply that to biotech? Biotech usually is very difficult to develop, these probiotics and stuff. These are living organisms. Like, it's not just sugar. It's not just a sugar mill or something. I could just manufacture sugar. Like, you have to have, a full, lab and everything. It's very difficult, right? In our case, it's not, because it's derived from milk. So what we do is we provide the bacteria to you, and all you have to do is mix it in the milk, ferment it in an open space, and you can develop tons of this super probiotic in-house, literally. In my tiny kitchen, you could literally develop 30 tons of this every month. There are probiotic companies right now who can only develop 50 tons a year. So my point is that this is such a paradigm shift in industrial agriculture. It's never seen before. Like, this goes down as, okay, there was 100 years of biotech, and then there was this thing that just showed up out of nowhere. Like, that's how important this is. And people don't realize that. It's because most people don't even talk about biotech. They're always talking about like the next social network that just came out or something. Alibaba just went for a IPO or something. Like, who's talking about biotech? Right. So I want to change that. I want to make these other industries that are, disenfranchised in a way. I want to make them sexy. I want to make them popular. I want to put them on the map. I want Meraki Ventures to go to places where you would be terrified to go to. You wouldn't even think of going into that industry. I don't care about building another Facebook or here's how I can do search 1% better than Google. Who gives a shit? You're not Google. Google will crush you,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the problem with all of these startups. They're just like, let's just go and get acquired by these companies. Let's go spend 2 years on this and then make $5 million.
I know exactly what you mean.
And they're so excited about it. That's the part that always throws me off. I'm so excited, to fail. I'm so excited to be sold. Like why?
So
I feel like
independent.
exactly. And with Mirai, so what we're doing is we're actually reaching out to entrepreneurs and reporters and whoever's out there, and we're saying, listen, if you can convince the farm, any farm in your region, to sign an annual agreement with us and manufacture this product in-house, which is how we're doing. We don't do import-export. And it just cuts down the cost completely down to nothing, less than $1 to develop 1 kilo of our product. So now these farms, they can build it all in-house. They can cut down all their costs, their import, export, all this kind of stuff. And we essentially just sell them the bacteria, and they produce it and feed it directly to the animals. And they can also become exclusive distributors. So whoever does that, we actually provide them with 2-3 years of commission, a percentage from all the profits from that region, from that particular company that they signed a deal with.
Smart.
And that's how we've been able to get partnerships in India, in Spain, in China, and all these countries, because all these people are like, I have nothing to lose. I just have to go and be an evangelist for this product and do it. So
don't have to hire salespeople. That's a great model. That's a fantastic
It's never been easier to change the world, Josh. So if you, instead of being vegan, which I still highly endorse, I strongly recommend that you go and you look at who's the worst polluter in your region and go tell them that in 24 hours we can cut that and make it just completely get rid of that problem for you. And I can give you that product in a week. and you guys can see for yourself. And if they pick it up, you basically sit down and you count your dollars.
Right. That's awesome, man. Okay, well, so this is a whole other kind of affiliate program that we've never seen.
Yes.
Yeah,
Biotech
dude,
is not like that. That's my point.
Crazy.
Let's use our experience from no code and communities and restaurants and everything, and let's apply it to these other industries that are so like back in the 18th century right now, right? And that's my point, is like, someone wants to make a difference. Great. I have a product that can make a difference, but I'm not in Spain. I don't speak the language. The reason we were able to get, for example, in front of the third largest industrial agriculture farm company out there, is because the lawyer saw our affiliate program, got super excited. He's the lawyer of the actual CEO of the company. And he went and pitched to the CEO. CEO was like, what the fuck? And next day, I'm on a phone call with the CEO directly. I didn't have to go through any bureaucracy. I'm talking directly to the man at the and he's like, Sarko, what you're pitching me is just literally impossible. It's like saying, elephants can fly. You're going to make my cows just fly when they eat this. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm saying.
It's magic.
He's like, well,
man.
how are you going to prove it? How many weeks is it going to take? I'm like, it's going to take 24 hours. If you don't see it, you don't see it. And he's like, what am I losing? Nothing.
Nothing.
He's like, send it over. I sent it over. He saw it in 24 hours. The guy was like, you weren't fucking around. I was like, that's my point.
That's literal magic, man. That's literal magic. And I think to wrap all this up before we go into some screen sharing is like, that was the epitome of using product design to create magic. The best product design is magic. The best user experience, it's literal magic. Like I said,
let it speak for itself.
You have to experience it. You have to actually experience it. And you know what, man? I've said this before in our calls, but it's like, you're a modern day polymath, and that's what the world needs more of. Seriously, man, because you need to be able to take small pieces from multiple industries and different sectors and different disciplines, and to make these connections. It's the only way that you can create these new things. Like, there's nothing new anymore, I don't think. It's just taking little bits and pieces from elsewhere, applying it somewhere else, and then it becomes new. So I think like you're doing a really, really good job of that. I'm super excited about it. And I think what you're doing for the world and humanity is fucking amazing, man. So, I mean, I hope this also opened up a lot of people who maybe clicked on this or started listening to this thinking we're going to just be talking about no code and product design. But the fact that you can apply product design to something so world changing, that is amazing, man. So I think
no code is not this.
To you.
Yeah, no code is often treated as this bubble. It's like you're either a no coder or you're an entrepreneur. I'm like, no code is a means to an end. No code is supposed to help you do whatever you're already doing better and faster, more efficiently. Mirai's website is entirely developed. Mirai.am is entirely developed in Webflow.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm using these I want to be a bridge between no code and these other industries, And if more people realize that, okay, I don't have to just build my blog using, Webflow. I don't have to build just my app, my dating app using Bubble. I can actually build anything. Then we're going to open up so many other opportunities where it's like, well, we're not in a bubble. The no code is basically in a way, a trampoline for the rest of it. It's a leveling field
for everyone.
Leveling field for creators. And I think that by doing more abstract projects, we're showing them that there is no limit. You are the limit. If you think that this is where, this is it, this is what I can do with it, and there's nothing else to it, then that's what it's going to be. You have to be very open.
That's awesome.
I think that's why I did these projects, and I'm looking forward to sharing that.
Cool, man. And so before we jump into that, where can people find you online? And maybe you can repeat your business's websites as well.
Yeah, sure. If you want to learn more about Rapmaster, you can go to rapmaster.co. For Mirai, you go to mirai.am. For Meraki Ventures, we're going to be publishing. We're going live next year. It's meraki.vc. For me, you can follow me on twitter.com/Sarkis Buniatyan. And you can also find my Webflow projects at webflow.com/Sarkis, Sarkis.
Awesome. And I'm going to link all those in the description of this podcast in YouTube, Spotify. So wherever you're listening to this or watching, you will be able to get them super easily. So yeah, man, whenever you're ready, let's jump into some of these projects. I love to end off on this. So while you're doing that, anyone who's listening right now, on Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, you can go over to YouTube to start seeing this. I've also linked these projects in the description if you want to go straight over there. But Sarkis is going to show off his Webflow prototypes on screen now. So I'll hand it over to you to go through it.
Thank you. So, without going too deep here, because I know this can be a rabbit hole, there's so many elements inside this screen. Just to kind of give you an idea of how this entire prototype came together. Here you can see all the layers, the groups, the full project here. So if you actually go to my Webflow project in the Webflow showcase, if you go to my personal profile, webflow.com/Sarkis, and you go to the PS4, you can actually go to the read-only link in the description of my project page for PlayStation or Civilization 6, and you can preview the full project inside of Webflow. So you don't have to just see the project. You don't have to just open the website. You can actually see all the layers and structures here. So as an example, Josh, this is going to be interesting for you. We have the cursor element right over here. All of this is running simultaneously on one page. There is no other page here. It's all in one single page. So here everything from having the options menu, the profiles, and so on and so forth. Everything is in one place. Here you can see the menus at the bottom. You can see all these individual elements. It's just placement, really, if you think about it. You just need to learn how to, the box model first and foremost when it comes to Webflow, and most no-code tools is like everything is a box within a box within a box, right? So that's really how this structure is here. Right? You have a parent section, and then inside of it you have a logo, and you have this intro container, and inside of that you have this text and this PS button, for example, right? Again, box, box, box. Everything is a box. And then the second thing you want to keep in mind is that really it's just about placement. Like placing, how do you place this, container here? Oh, we position it as absolute. We can float it to the left, float it to the right, put it in the center. If you just understand these two things, placement and the box model, you could build anything. And that's what I really love about Webflow, is that it's just an empty canvas. It's not telling you what you should do with it. It's just letting you do whatever you need to with it. And that's why really when people say, well, I don't even know how I would create that, that's your own limitation. That's not Webflow's limitation. You've already you're perceiving it as just, okay, these are sections and divs, so I guess I can only build website components with this. No, that's not true. You can build any type of component with this thing. Just try it. Use the same logic of creating a menu or creating a footer or creating whatever, and just think about, okay, how would I place these buttons at the bottom of the screen for? How would I place whatever, let's say, this particular game component, somewhere on the screen. So just to preview that project now, we're going to jump in. Here we are.
That's awesome.
I'm just going to mute it right now.
Cool. Oh, yes, it has background music, yes.
Yeah, there you are. So this is a complete pixel perfect rendition of the PlayStation. That's what shocked everyone. Is like, technically, it's like, if I can build this, someone actually said, it's like, well, if you can build this in Webflow, then what's stopping you from hooking this up to the actual API through the backend? I'm like, well, nothing. That's the whole point. You can actually, this is all real code. I could just hook up this whole UI to an actual design, to an actual backend, and I can create my own version of the PlayStation inside of Webflow. And that's really what catches people's, imagination of like, okay, well, wow. So we can just jump in here. You can actually, I've integrated games as well, so you can just like open them up here. There you are. You can
That's
actually
cool.
see. Yeah. So this is what confused everyone. It's like, wait, is this a video? Is this a game? Like, how does this work? Like, and that's my point, is like, this is what I mean by creating hyper realistic prototypes and MVPs, where it's like, this is the product. It's just the right amount of code. It's the right amount of design. Where imagine if like Sony wanted to test their concept of like their new UI with the community, right? They could technically build the entire thing in Webflow and just release it as a link, playstation.webflow.io. Somebody who's an Xbox player, for example, Josh, could just take this link and understand exactly how the PlayStation works.
Exactly.
This is how I download a game. This is how I go back. Here's how I go forward. Here's how I go to my profile. I can just click here, and there's my profile. That's what's really crazy about this project, is that it's such a homage to the product. It's like almost everything is here. Like you can just see like, oh, here's Netflix, here's YouTube, And you also, have the individual games, which is just really cool. So it's also a nice little shout out to these games. Say, well, you could also play that. Here's Last of Us. Kind of experiencing that. So yeah, this is go to playstation.webflow.io and you can experience the full prototype. And I'm looking forward to your feedback. So please feel free to DM me on Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me on Webflow. And if you guys want to bring your ideas to life, if it's a really interesting project, like I mentioned, I like to take on a few projects with some interesting entrepreneurs every few months to keep my product design skills sharp when I'm not feeding animals and whatever other thing I'm doing.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I love your analogy of like, yes, even in Webflow, you can do custom code. So you could also just make sure you don't exit Zencaster just yet till I hit stop and record. I don't want to lose it all.
Good. All good.
And then we'll get into Civ 6. Before we do that, it's like, you could actually connect this up with custom code. So I know you're going to be taking the step further using Bubble, where you will actually be doing a lot of that actual back-end code, a lot of the logic. But with Webflow, it's like you can link up with someone who's a really good developer that's really good at the logic. And if you're an amazing designer like yourself, you can create the entire front end here, and then they just link that right up. Like that button component at Get Started can be linked up directly with custom code that can send it off to an AWS server. You can create this whole game online. It will work as a multiplayer game. So it's amazing what you've done.
Yes.
So I'll let you get into this one.
Yeah. So Civilization 6 was, I would say, maybe 50 times bigger than the PlayStation prototype. It's just gigantic. I mean, the PlayStation has, hundreds of components, elements. This one has 12,000. Like, it is just gigantic in terms of scope. And I think, like, I could argue that you can't really take Webflow any further than this because it actually broke Webflow. So I have to take a step back and actually remove certain features just so you'd be able to open the prototype and actually be able to use it. And the crazy part is, I just wanted to see, like, okay, how many elements can I realistically put in one single page before Webflow starts crashing? Like, so it turns out I could put pretty much the entire game into one screen.
It's all on one
that's
page.
Really what's insane. All entirely on one.
Yeah, that's insane.
And there we go. So you have, the floating menu, for example. When I showed this to Vlad, the co-founder CEO of Webflow, first he was like, "Oh, you created the menu. You created a login screen. That's really cool." And then he clicked on it, and he's like, "Oh, come on, man! Don't tell me. Don't do that to me." He's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Click on it. Click on it." So everything here, is live. You have the menus. You have the options here. You're able to just go from to multiplayer. You have the game options. Everything is accessible. You can really get an idea of, like, oh shit, there you go. Like, notice what just happened. I changed the time of day, and automatically the confirm button just light up saying, "Hey, listen, like, would you like to confirm this new setting that you just changed?" The audio here, you can just change it. Master volume here, you can reduce it. All these options are available to you. Changing the language, the key bindings, everything. You can actually click here and actually type in. You can actually, all of these elements are working. A lot of people didn't even have a chance to go through all these features. Be like, oh shit, like, this is actually happening, like, in real time. Like, this is not, they've only seen the main features. A lot of people didn't even realize you can play the game. Like, you can actually choose. They probably didn't even
think you went that deep into the design.
Exactly. They kind of just stopped there. And then here's the actual hard part: is that this prototype features 46 playable leaders in this game, all of them. So I'm going to let you, Josh, let you choose for our listeners which leader we should play with.
Let's see here. Let's go with John Curtin.
John Curtin, good choice. Australia.
Yeah, let's do it.
There we go. So we're going to choose John Curtin. There you go. Now the entire game got adapted to John Curtin. So now all of his elements, all of his assets, the map, the game, the soundtrack. By the way, I included a soundtrack of each leader too.
Wow. Is this using the CMS, by the way?
No CMS. It's all individual elements. Yeah.
Man, you went hardcore on this.
No, absolutely hardcore. Yeah, all of these are individual elements, and all the pictures. Like, that's really what's tough about Civilization 6 versus something like the PlayStation, because the PlayStation was, most of its components are just boxes. a box, like maybe a little circle button, a bobble, whatever, or some icons. But here, it's all artwork. So I had to
Right.
actually screenshot high resolution elements, 1,200 of them to be exact, and all of them, like here, the circles here, the little circles over there, the artwork on the left, all of them are individual screenshots. So let's go ahead and play the game. So you click on Start the Game, loads it. Here we are. Technically, Josh, someone who's never played Civilization before, they can get a completely pixel perfect idea of how this game works without even buying it. This is the perfect demo of like how this works.
Wow.
You can click on it, and here we go. You're in the game now.
That's wild. So is the background, this is all interactive.
Yeah, so you can, I'm tricking you. A lot of these are tricks as well. So like, this is not actually, you're not going to move this character anywhere. Right. The idea is that this is the prototype of the game. So you're not actually, but basically everything other than the game itself is here. Everything. Like here, you could change the menu, you could switch between the map, you can change your options. You can go like here, you can see your civics tree, literally the entire civics tree. I rebuilt it meticulously.
Wow.
Pixel. Dude, this is not, this was a labor of love.
So that's not like a screenshot. This is all like in Webflow.
So this is a screenshot, but in Photoshop, what I had to do was rebuild a lot of these pieces, because inside of the game, this is actually a parallax effect. So a lot of these elements are kind of floating. So you can't just take one big screenshot and just have it. So I had to like rebuild 7,000 pixels of this, like attach all of these elements together to get you this experience. And the sad part is that most people probably never even opened it. They didn't even realize it was available. But for me, I love knowing that I put that attention. I love knowing that, like, I know how much work
you went the distance. Yeah,
I did go to distance, and it gives you a deeper appreciation for it. Like, you're not just building this for others. Like, notice this little detail here when you put your mouse over a button. Look at how the mouse just kind of like rotates.
Yeah,
just gives you that sense of like, you're scrolling in, you're zooming in. It's letting you know you're about to click on this. Or as an example, let's go ahead and click here, the Great People screen. Like, you're able to switch. Notice how I can just like hover over over the button. Notice how smooth that interaction is of having that. All these buttons have to be meticulously positioned on top of each other to have that perfect zoom in, zoom out, effect for all of these elements to work like this. So really, that was the real hallmark, I think, of like what makes a great product, is that you can tell that this person just was absolutely obsessed. Like, it just reached an unbelievable level of obsession. Click on the plus over here. You can just delete your unit and all this kind of interesting elements over there. And then here on the right, this is where it gets really interesting. You get the individual, like, all the rankings are all available.
Oh, wow.
You actually go through every screen here. So really, this is, I even made sure that these screens were tied to the correct leader. Like, check this out.
No kidding. Yeah, because we chose that leader.
Exactly. So actually, all of that is live. There you go, John Curtin. There he is.
Unbelievable.
Right. So in reality, each leader has about 10 to 15 unique assets, whether it's the map, right? So whether it's the map, their face, all these elements individually. And I had to go and create 46 individual interactions for 46 leaders with 15 of these interactions. So it's just hundreds and hundreds of interactions.
Could we go into the Webflow and see that? The Webflow project? Yes. Yeah, let's see that. And so why did you decide not to use the CMS? Would you think that would have been harder or easier to actually use a CMS? So based on which leader you're just using conditional logic for just them.
No, the CMS, unless you're paying for the project, the CMS only lets you have about 25 items in the CMS. And that's not a problem for me. I'm happy to pay for it. But if people start cloning the project, the CMS is not going to work. So I just realized at that point, like, I need to just, bite the bullet. Yeah. So here, like, check this out. This is really cool too. Like this right here, all of these are Webflow components. So this, for example, is the slider, is the gallery showcase feature, but it's completely tailored for using the custom buttons and the custom elements of Civilization 6. So when you look at it, you don't even think that, wow, this could actually be the gallery component inside of Webflow. It wouldn't cross your mind because it looks so realistic. And that's my point, is that it kind of it blends reality with fiction, where you're not really sure design, what you're looking at.
It's also the skeuomorphic design definitely did that,
Yeah, exactly. Like here, I even added the video when you're retiring.
Like those buttons are so sick.
I recorded the videos individually. So like when you fail at the game, you have this video. So you can actually watch the real video when you click on retire. Like it's all live. So now let's go into Webflow and just see like how that all looks. So here it's just, a few layers. Now let's go ahead and click this little magical expand all button. Brace yourself.
Let's see. Let's see if it breaks Webflow. I'll be surprised if it doesn't.
It took 5 seconds to actually expand it. And look at how small that bar is right there.
Yeah. Wow. You're not even making a dent. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we can go make a coffee or something. It's going to take a while
to get down there. Yeah, wow. And then, so when you're talking about the interactions, did you use the IX2 interactions? So for people who don't know, it's just the interactive interactions design.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to show you how many interactions there's 400 of them. So there's another bar for you to take a look at. So everything like open game option, close game option, hide the minimap, show the minimap. Like everything is just like. Toggle on, toggle off, trigger this, trigger that. Everything is individual interaction. And the real crazy part here that boggles people's mind is not that, okay, there's this big project called Civilization. It's that how the hell did you remember which interaction correlates with which button and like how all this comes together, actually.
Because it's a blank screen when you're looking at it in the designer right now, too.
And well, that's because I have the intro video. Like when you actually first open the prototype, it's supposed to play the intro video first. There you go. So you have that little okay, it's my there you go.
Oh, there you go.
So you have, and that's what actually took people off guard too. They thought I did a recording of the game. They didn't realize I built the game.
Just played a video to show the
intro.
It
was just a video, right? It was just
a video. That's so brilliant.
So if we just delete the intro here, I can just remove that for a second. You'll be able to see how the components actually come together here. So I can just click on delete. Here we go. You see how long it's taking just to remove an element. Now imagine building it. Like how
the patience
slow
you have for this,
the patience you have to have, right? So again, just to give people, just one small example. Take a look at this. We have this, overlay component, right? And inside of it, so this is one big div, one big box, and then inside of it we have a little box that's just centered inside that bigger box. And in this box, we have all this content that's centered inside the little box in the welcome wrap. And inside we have the circles, we have this text, we have the logo, we have the get started button, and that's it. And you're just choosing when this element needs to be visible, when that one needs to be visible. So again, if you just understand that everything is just a box within the box, you can build absolutely anything. And before we go, I'd like to end on a cliffhanger, Josh. So in November, I'm going to be launching the first full feature-length game built on Webflow. Actual game, not a prototype of a game. This is a completely original game. It's a match pairs game based on Lord of the Rings, where you're going to be matching up the best moments from all 6 movies. It's going to be really just a nostalgic experience. And it's also going to be completely clonable, guys. And I want people to... I basically found a way to trigger game logic using not custom code, but using just purely Webflow interactions. And when you see how it's done, when you clone the project and see how simple it is, and it's all run, by the way, using the Webflow CMS. It's all in the Webflow CMS.
That's cool.
So I wanted to kind of make up for that having most of my projects are all done custom components. This one I wanted to be entirely on the CMS. So the whole game is set up there. And what's cool about that is that all these videos and like these, matchmaking, elements and so on are all in the CMS, which means somebody who doesn't even know how to use Webflow can just go into the plain editor, go into the CMS, and just replace my Lord of the Rings elements with Harry Potter elements. And now you have a Harry Potter game. So it's kind of like almost a template for a game, and all of these type of projects, again, nobody's doing that. It's not like only Sarko could do it. That's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not like only I can do it because I'm such a special guy. Like, no, actually anyone can do it. You just have to break down the barriers. Don't limit yourself. And don't think that, I can only do what Webflow told me to do. Webflow consistently calls itself a website builder. I don't. I call it a web builder, right? So you define the product. Don't let the product define you. And I think that's the best advice I can give everyone.
That is the best advice. And have you, man, that's awesome, because you can take that anywhere. Like, I think we spoke before about using Unity and Unreal. I think if you haven't looked into it, man, I feel like what you could probably do, I'm sure your hands are so full right now, but if you ever had the time, the shit you could probably do in Unreal Engine using blueprints. It's all visual code. So awesome. You've heard of blueprints, right? In Unreal Engine. I can only imagine what you would do. Like, it would be insane. So maybe eventually you'll do that. But man, this is awesome. And are you going to do like a kind of walkthrough of the game once you launch it?
Oh, definitely. Basically, every time we launch, I want to be able to launch one big project every month.
Cool.
So, last month was Civilization. This month is going to be the game. Next month is going to be PS5. And after that, MacOS and so on and so forth. And I think that Protocore can be the most inspiring company in the no-code space. It's going to be the company where it's like, they're just showing you every month one impossible thing or something that you thought was impossible. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they're making it completely clonable, which it's like, well, you have no excuse for not diving in. We literally just gave it to you.
It's like, here
so
you
go and do it. Like, just go and do it.
That's awesome. I'm excited. And I can't wait to see what you guys do with Bubble when you start introducing logic and stuff like that. So it's going to be insane, man. Well, Sarkis, man, this was awesome. I think we can definitely end here. Again, for anyone who watched it, you can go check out his all the links in the description. If you want to check out this Webflow projects, all of his websites and his projects are going to be in the description. This is amazing. So if you want to dive into Sarkis's rabbit hole, I think the best place would be Twitter as well. You're quite active on Twitter. So we'll both be on Twitter. So if anyone has any questions for us, you can tag either one of us, or even just him, just me, whatever you want. If you want to spark a conversation, we're both very active on Twitter. So we'll both definitely chime in there.
Well, I got a final question for you.
Yes, please.
We're going to end on you.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are you most excited about, and what's your vision for the next year?
In the next year? That's a good question, man. Well, I'm very excited about VR still because actually of COVID, because I started playing this VR social experience called Big Screen. And
nice.
I know you'll get a headset. So once you do, we'll join in Big Screen. And basically what this thing is, it's a social network where you can invite your friends into your basically virtual home, and you have a massive screen. You can then share your screen from your Windows PC onto that screen. And now you can both watch a movie together. So now you and I, we're in different time zones. We're in opposite ends of the world. I'm in Canada. You're in Thailand. We can now don on this headset, and suddenly you're beside me. We're not looking through a little window anymore. You're literally like, it feels like you're fucking right beside me. Your sound is coming right from there. And now I can share my screen and we can watch movies together. That's pretty cool, right?
Very nice.
We can play games. If you have like your PlayStation, you can hook it up to the screen. We can split screen, old school multiplayer games. But now I'm thinking about, I've done like a couple of meetups with some friends in this. It's like, what is the next stage of that? So we're starting to build a little prototype with this tool called Normcore. And it works with Unity, and it's kind of no code. It's like a little bit of code, but it's kind of no code, where you can create multiplayer experiences across all devices. It doesn't matter what device you're on. So I'm really excited about trying out this idea of creating a social experience. I don't even want to call it a game, a social experience with mini games in it. So now you can come to my space and we can have a library of games. As you can see if you're watching the video, I have like a little nook of card games and like board games and stuff. Because at a certain point, it's cool that we can watch movies together, but what if we just want to hang out? What do you do when you go to your friend's house? You grab a drink, you play some games.
Absolutely.
So what if we can start incorporating these games, stuff like, Telestrations and Nomia. There's big games that everyone knows, like, just like any kind of board game you can think of within this virtual space. And yes, you can use a VR headset, but because we're going to be prototyping it with this norm core, you can now also have people who don't have headsets on their mobile phones play with them using AR on their phone. So now, within your phone or your iPad, whatever it is, you can see a virtual table with all the virtual cards and all your virtual friends literally moving. As their hands move, you see their hands move in the space and putting down the cards, and you can start interacting with them even if you don't have a headset. So I'm super excited about this idea of building out these portals, if you will. Like Facebook literally has a product called Portal. We're looking at a portal right now in Zoom, but now with VR and things, you can kind of like take it a step further. Like it gets way more digital, but now it's like, it's the next level of social media. It 100% is. And I know why Facebook bought Oculus and why they're doing what they're doing. That's what I'm super excited for. And COVID sped all this up. So we've gone like 5 years in the future of all this. So I'm super excited about that. So I think over the next year, I'll be playing around with that idea. So I would love to get your feedback on it, man. If there's anyone who will be able to give us great product design tips, who knows, maybe that's one of the projects that you're like, hey, this is actually fucking cool. I'll actually do the mobile version of this or something. So I'm really excited to see your thoughts on that because it's a really powerful project.
The best days are ahead of us. Continued success. And thanks so much for featuring my work and reaching out to me and doing this interview. I rarely talk about, I rarely go public with it. And it was just a pleasure being able to kind of dive into my passion with you.
Man, I'm so excited. I'm so glad that we did this. And I'm so glad that you were able to open up to it because I knew that you weren't really public about this. So thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your passions, man. It lit me up. My day is like, I know your day's winding down. My day is just kind of starting. I'm super fired up, man. And I'm sure anyone listening to this or saw the video is incredibly fired up. So thank you so much, Sarkis. We can definitely end it off on here and take care. We'll definitely have to do this again too, because I'm sure as more projects come out, we can do another show and tell, and I'm sure more things will pop up as we come on. So thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom, and take care. We'll end it off there.
Thanks so much, guys. All the best, guys.